Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe, episode 37.
I just realized you can do this, and if you have a family, you can do this with a family.
It's time to reverse the imbalances in your life as you take the first step on your own journey towards personal change. Welcome to Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe, educating, empowering, and inspiring individuals to live healthier. Now here are your hosts and your guides to natural living, Jamal and Kim.
Hi, Kim and Jamal here, and welcome to another episode of Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe podcast. That intro was from our beautiful little girl, Saora. This is a family affair, and she announced that this is episode number 37. And I'm Kim, and I'm joined with Jamal.
Greetings, everyone.
And
peace and blessings.
We are episode at number 37, which I can't believe. Each week our mission is to educate, empower, and inspire you to live healthier. So in this episode, we are joined by Monique of Brown Vegan. And just a little background before we dive into this episode. For most of you who are not aware, I do share this with people who are close to me or come into the center, our clients, that I am a foodie. Though I eat healthy, I love finding delicious tasting foods that also feed and nourish the body. And I'm always in search of recipes and new things, new foods to eat and how to prepare them. So I am a big fan of food channels on YouTube. I frequent them often. I use recipes. It gives me a lot of ideas. And I came across Monique's channel not too long ago. And, I was looking at some of her videos and I'm like, man, we got to get Monique on the show. So that is how Monique has joined us this week. And the name of her show and her whole mission is Brown Vegan. Yeah, so we had her on the show, and the whole premise of the show is just how to help families to eat healthier. And Monique has certainly done that. And just to read a little bit about her before we dive into the show, I just want to share this with you. Monique is on a mission to help you start and stay on a vegan journey with your family. And after being on this journey with her own family since 2010, she knows how simple, delicious, and long-term this lifestyle can be. So did you want to share anything, Jamal, before we dive in?
Yeah, I just think that this is going to be a great show because a lot of times it's not always about just going vegan, but definitely about eating more plant-based, getting more vegetation in your lifestyle. And there are a lot of people that do want to go vegan or vegetarian. They just don't know how to make delicious meals. So, they get tired of, just the basics and, it doesn't do anything for them. So, she really, makes some really good foods. So I think that this will be a good show on helping you to kind of navigate and find your way on this journey.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're someone who wants your family to eat healthier, Monique gave some great advice and tips on how to do that, because it's all about our families. And if you prepare foods in your home, you have the power to heal your family and to get them on the right track in terms of living healthier and having a healthy lifestyle. Okay, so let's dive into this week's interview. Hi, it's Kim and Jamal here, and we are joined by Monique from Brown Vegan. Hi, Monique. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Greetings, Monique.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for joining us, and we're so excited to share this information with our community today.
Definitely.
So, Monique, I came across you online. I mentioned in the previous conversation with you that I am a foodie and I love delicious, healthy food. So before, for those of you who are not familiar with Monique of Brown Vegan, can you share who you are with our community?
Yeah, so basically I started my own vegan journey in 2010 and after being a vegetarian for 2 years. And so because I have a family, we're a family of 5, I decided that we were going to do it together because I wasn't going to cook multiple meals anymore. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I started my blog brownvegan.com, and basically where I would share recipes and tips and things like that of how to get started from, on a vegan journey from a family perspective, because I was struggling a lot in the beginning because I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of information out there from the family perspective. There was a lot of like super, I guess, healthy recipes, and that's all good. But when you're trying to feed a family who is used to eating a lot of bad food, it's kind of hard to transition them to it. So at the end of, I guess I would say 2011, at the end of the year, I went out to have lunch with one of my cousins, and she said, you know what you should do? You should start doing YouTube videos and show people how to be vegan using video, because it's so important, because people think this food is gross. And I thought it was gross too until I knew you. Start doing it with you. And so because of that, I said, I was a little nervous about YouTube, but I decided to go on there, and I just basically share like recipes and tips and just help families transition in the most, down to earth way possible, because like I said, I really felt like I needed that information, and I just think it's so important to, pass it on to other families, and just to show that you can really do this as a family, because a lot of people think you can't. So that's basically how I got started and what I do, and with my own family and with other families.
You said a couple of great things there that I would like to touch on, but before we get to them, you went from you said that you were vegetarian, and then you made the transition to vegan. What sparked that transition into veganism?
Yeah, so it's crazy because, first of all, I didn't even want to be a vegetarian. I decided that I wanted to eat healthier, but I didn't think that meant being a vegetarian. I just thought it meant me not eating a whole lot of processed foods with my family. And so I read, when I was a vegetarian, when I decided to become one, I read a book called Skinny Bitch back in 2008. And it was the first time that I saw being a vegetarian or vegan as an option. So I decided at that point that I didn't really want to eat any animals anymore. I wanted to just do it, to be a little more healthier. But then in 2010, when I read, are you guys familiar with Sister Vegan by Breeze Harper?
I did hear before.
Yeah, so I read that in 2010, and it was the first time that veganism resonated for me as a woman of color, as a black woman, as a black American, because up until that point, I always saw veganism as something, blue eyes, blonde hair, people who were well off. I never really related to it. So it was the first time that I saw it from an animal rights perspective, the first time I saw it from an environmental perspective, and of course the health perspective as well. So at that point I was like, oh no, I can't contribute to this anymore. I really want to do better. It's bigger than me and my family. How can I, be better for the planet, just be a better eater, just overall be a better person. So yeah, that's what sparked it, reading that book by Sister Vegan. And so because that book resonated so much for me, I was like, okay, I know that other black women would want to see someone that looks like them, that is showing how this lifestyle looks, in a very, I guess, approachable way is what I try to aim for, to make it so that it's really easy for people to say, okay, I can try this at least, opposed to just kind of like, well, it doesn't relate to me, I don't care, So that's how it looked for me.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, we spoke about this when we had Richard Campbell. He's a vegan bodybuilder. When we had him on the show, he's also a Rasta. And just that transition for black people into veganism is actually quite different than it is for other people. What we observe is that a lot of times it starts out on a health journey. Most of us start as vegetarians, and we transition into veganism, and it's more about the health. And then, our reality opens up to other things, on our journey, and then we're listening to you, and it sounds like, your journey was the same. Do you normally see that with other black people as well, as they transition into, more plant-based and a veganism lifestyle?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually pretty rare that I see people from the other side. Usually when I meet other black vegans, it's usually for health reasons, and then they kind of end up on the environmental and the ethical reasons. But I would say, though, it's funny because even though as a vegetarian, I was thinking of it more of a health. Once I became a vegan, it was all, at that point, all about the ethical, environmental things. And then the health came back later on. It's so interesting how that, isn't it interesting how that worked? But yeah, it was just kind of like, oh no, I can't contribute to these industries anymore. I have to, I got to get it together over here, But So, that's how it looked for us.
And then you pointed out something about, just the family and just how you made that decision where you weren't going to keep making separate meals.
Right.
And a lot of times people struggle with that because they're, as women, they're trying to provide and make these meals for the family. And a lot of times it gets tiring making both meals. And a lot of times women give in. They give in to having to make, double and triple meals. So they go the other way. They go back to eating the way that their family eats as opposed to bringing their family over. So I think that's great and inspiring.
Yes.
For more entire families to convert over to eating a healthier lifestyle. And that really comes down to making the food taste good. You know what I mean?
Yes,
people want to eat.
absolutely.
Yeah, they want to eat wholesome, delicious foods. So, if they can make the food taste good, that is important. And for you to see that that's a problem, because a lot of times with a lot of dishes out there, you're right, it's not family oriented. So it'll be smaller portion sizes, not necessarily enough for families. And in the translation, somehow it gets lost. If you take a recipe and you double it for your family and the taste is lost, it tastes completely different when it's a larger, when you just increase it, somehow the spice is off. So a lot of times people try to make it larger and it doesn't taste the same.
Right.
So the fact that you're gearing it toward, families and making, meals that are geared toward them in the right proportions is great. Like, did you find that in the beginning when you were trying to make larger sizes that the taste was off, or did you just automatically make adjustments?
Well, at the beginning, because I have to say this too, this is another issue, I guess, that happened for us. And this is why I always like to share this. I was not a cook before I became a vegan.
Right.
Even as a vegetarian, I didn't really cook a whole lot. I was just used to kind of buying whatever was on sale, tossing it in the oven, and we ate that kind of thing. So getting adjusted to actually cooking was a lot for me, because most of our food is, it's better. So it's usually more healthier, more from scratch, things like that. And so that was just a big mindset shift. I was like, oh my goodness, I am chopping 1 million vegetables a week and this is crazy, like, I don't know if I can do this. But I guess my point is, if I can do it, I know anyone can, because I did not like cooking before this. And this is from somebody who grew up with a father that cooked really well and always made us food from the garden and everything. So, yeah, I will say that like doubling the recipes was an issue for me too. I totally agree with you, Jamal. I noticed a lot of the flavor was lost, and the reason why I didn't know to make adjustments to that is because I wasn't much of a cook. So I thought it was kind of, so I just kind of thought that it was like, okay, it's supposed to taste like this? Is this? And then I remember at one point I was like, oh, I see why people don't go vegan, because this food is not very good. So it's just really, it really is about being open to experimenting and understanding that a little bit of salt goes a long way, and that it's okay to seek out people who kind of eat the same way that you do, because I felt like I was finding things that weren't very, things that we would normally eat. So It felt really good to seek out things that felt really familiar. So you have to just be really, really open to experimenting. It's just like, it's a key. You have to be open to experimenting and exploring different options. And so that made a huge difference. But yeah, in the beginning, I definitely struggled with, doubling a recipe and the spices and things not lining up. It's just like, this is something different. Yeah.
Yeah. And Monique, on one of your, I watch your YouTube channel, of course, and one of your videos, you went shopping with, I guess, some of your children. I think it was 2 of your sons, and it was like they were part of the process. Do you include your children in when you're making food?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest tips that I would give for anybody who is doing this with their family, is to get your family involved in the process, because that truly made a huge difference for us. Because here's the thing, kids are more likely to eat something that they had a part in making. So if they help me grocery shop, they help me grocery shop, they help me prep the food, they help me cook the food, they're not going to turn it down, because it's like it's a part of them at that point. They help make the decision. So I don't always take my kids to the grocery store because they are budget busters, because they will find they will bust my budget all the way open. So I don't always take them, but I do, especially if it's kind of like we'll go into the produce department, and my middle son or my youngest, I'm not sure which one, I have 3 boys, they're the reason why we start eating young Thai coconuts, because I would like go in the store and we'll say, okay, pick something out that we've never tried before, and we'll go to Google and see how we're supposed to prepare this. And so that's how we start eating young Thai coconut. We make ice cream out of it. We drink the water. You know, it's just like a fun way for us to spend time together. So getting the family involved is so, so important.
Right. I think that's a great point. Getting the family involved. That's definitely what we do with our daughter Saor from the very beginning, her being a part of it, because you're right. They're excited. They want to taste it. And it's just good as far as bonding and education is concerned. And they're learning how to prepare healthy meals at an early age. Right. So that's definitely powerful.
Giving them the foundation.
Right, giving them giving them the foundation, because we own a holistic center in New Jersey, so we're all about the health, and we really try to get people to begin on a healthy path and to practice prevention, as opposed to just getting their backs against the wall and being sick and having to fight themselves out of it. Because especially in the Black community, we're really leading the country in so many different areas as far as illnesses are concerned. So, to start our children out early, doing the right thing is so powerful. Right. Which kind of leads us to just the state of, the health of our families and things like that in our country. Like, what is your perspective on the overall health of the United States?
Wow, we're really, it's like a state of emergency. It really is. Like, oh man, where do I start? I try not to focus. I will say this. I try not to focus too much on the problem and more so on the solution. Right. And I think that the biggest solution would be to show families and just people in general that they can transition in a way that doesn't look like just salads and smoothies, and you can get healthier in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're making a sacrifice. Because I always hear that word a lot. I know you guys probably hear that too. Like, oh, I'm deprived, I'm losing out. It's a sacrifice. And I think it's important to show people that they can pretty much take all of their favorite foods and make a vegan version out of it. Yeah. So overall, it's a state of emergency, but we know that texture and flavor is so important. And when we can figure out how to way to get people to enjoy the texture, enjoy the flavor, change your mindset a little bit about, because it is a little different when you're first starting, getting people comfortable with that, then that would be the solution, is helping as many people as possible transitioning in a way that doesn't feel like it's taking away from who they are. Because I think a lot of times people feel like they're losing that. Especially around the holidays. They're like, oh my goodness, I can't have my grandmother's macaroni and cheese and stuff like that. You kind of feel like you're, because food is so, such a big part of who we are. Right. Yeah. So I think definitely we're in a state of emergency as a country. But if we focus on figuring out how we can get people to transition in a way that feels good to them, then that's our solution, I believe. So. Right.
I mean, you just really kind of touched on something indirectly, and that's just the connection that we have with food. We just did a show with Mark Schatzker. We just did a show, and it was about the flavors in food, and just that natural connection that we have, psychologically to certain flavors. So, that is a very important piece, people having familiar tastes and things of that nature. And what we find is that, as people make the transition and they grow in it, it actually opens their palate up, and they start eating even more of a variety of foods because, you know, a lot of times people think that they have more variety than they really do, because when I sit down and really kind of look at what people are eating, they're eating the same things over and over again.
Thank you. I just had this conversation with someone yesterday. I literally had this conversation yesterday because I said that people always say that being vegan, they feel limited, but I feel like it's the opposite because you're eating the same thing every day when you're not a vegan. You're just eating your chicken 3 different ways.
Right.
So you're going to fry it, you're going to bake it, or you're going to put it in the stir fry.
Right.
But it opens your whole world up. And I think that's another thing, Kim and Jamal, that I think people struggle with is because we are so accustomed to eating the same 6 or 7 fruits and vegetables that we don't think that there's anything else out there. So that's why we're like, I don't know if I can transition because what am I going to eat? Because we all kind of grew up on, some green beans and some corn and things like that, but we didn't grow up on cauliflower and avocado and eggplant.
Right.
So we don't think that there's anything else out there, but oh my God, it's like a whole garden out there of options. And you don't know that before you're vegan because you're used to eating the same few fruits and vegetables. So true. So true.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you take the chicken out and it's like, oh no, what am I going to eat now? Meanwhile, it's thousands upon thousands of other things to eat. So yeah, like I just think that it's just a matter of people being open, being open and just allowing themselves to see that, they're transitioning into even more variety. Because I know for us, I mean, we're always trying, new dishes. Yeah. And we try so many new dishes and add on. A lot of times we forget some of our old favorites, We look back like, man, we haven't had that in months. Right. And it's
a good thing.
It's a good thing. And it's something that we love. And we bring it back into the rotation, So I feel like it's endless. It's endless. Yeah. So
absolutely.
So I know you do your thing online as far as helping people. Tell us about your work that you're doing right now to help people with this process of eating healthier and plant-based.
Yeah, so what I do is I have, of course, a YouTube channel, and I also have a podcast too where I interview other vegans because there's so much power in the story. Mm-hmm. And I know that listening to other people's transition is more relatable than, maybe reading something or just being able to hear that somebody else can understand any other issues you're having about transitioning. I think is so important. So my podcast, I love to focus on interviewing other vegans. And I also share some of my experiences too and tips and things like that, kind of like solo episodes. Mm-hmm. I love doing like speaking gigs. I just wrapped something up in January in Buffalo, and basically I helped some families transition to a vegan lifestyle. Nice. I have a book that I have out. And basically I try to do, I guess every other month or so, I try to do a master class where I take one subject and I teach this through training, and I give them a workbook and we have a Q&A session, just a way to work with me one-on-one if someone is interested in that. So that's basically what I'm doing right now. I really want to expand and do like more cooking demos and things like that. But right now, mostly everything that I do is online. Okay.
Yeah. Kim, she kind of, got introduced to you through YouTube, and she's a visual person. I'm an auditory person. I actually got introduced to you originally through your podcast. By listening on there. Can you tell everyone what's the name of your podcast and how can they, tune in?
Yeah, it's Brown Vegan Podcast, and you can go to iTunes and just search Brown Vegan, or go to brownvegan.com, and I have a podcast tab with like all of the episodes and everything on there.
Okay, great. And how often do you air?
I'm trying to get on a weekly schedule. So right now it's like once or twice a month. Okay. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard doing everything yourself, but of course, my goal is to be on a weekly schedule. So yeah, definitely. Every Saturday is my goal. Okay.
I think that's great. And then as far as YouTube channel. It's the same thing, Brown Vegan.
Yeah, if you search Brown Vegan on YouTube, my channel will come right up.
And how often do you air on there? Is it just random, or do you have a set schedule?
That's another thing. So I used to be kind of more random, but I'm working on being more consistent over there as well. So my goal is every Tuesday, a new video on YouTube.
Okay, nice.
And it's just like a recipe or a tip or something like that. Mostly a recipe.
Has anyone ever, approached you or tried to coach you into opening a restaurant or anything like that?
Yeah, it's funny. One of my uncles has been doing this for like the last year, trying to get me. He's like, "I'll invest in you. Let's do this." But I'm not really interested in that.
Yeah.
I want to have a life in restaurants.
Right.
And I feel like restaurants will require too much work from me. So I'm not really interested in that type of dedication. But, it would be funny to have not funny, but I guess a little more fun to probably have a food truck.
Mm-hmm.
But even that requires a lot of work. So I don't know. I already feel like I work a lot on this kind of stuff. So I just only imagine what it looks like to, food service overall. It's just hours and hours of dedication. And I just want to have fun and hang out with my kids and stuff. I don't really want to be dedicated to that. So
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, you hit it on the nose. I think you're thinking about it the right way. I mean, we're business owners, and, we had to learn the hard way about the other side of business, and that's just the the time commitment. So if you want your time, is definitely something to think about. But maybe something you could think about in the future is bringing on some people that you can train them, and you kind of get into the food industry as it's more of a CEO, and you have people that run the food truck, and they run the restaurant, and you just kind of oversee it. So you're not just kind of, in the trenches, all day long, taking time away from you and your family.
Right. Well, it's one thing that I am thinking about doing, and this is I actually bought the domain and everything, so I guess it's going to happen. I want to do dining with Brown Vegan. So basically take a group of 10 to 15 people and we dine together. Like we'll have like a 4 or 5 course meal. We'll talk about transition to vegan life, and it'll be like very fun. We'll have great music. I've been thinking about this for about 2 years now, and I just need to do it, and I just need to find a location to do this in. And I would love to do that quarterly, just kind of get these people together, and we'll just talk about vegan life and eat great food. So I would love to do something like that.
That sounds like a great idea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
More intimate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I would love that.
Now we have a lot of listeners that, they maybe not necessarily interested in being totally vegan, but more plant-based, and they just they struggle with that. And we try to be that support system. Are there any basic recipes that that you could share with our listeners that that's delicious, that they can kind of try on their own and build a little confidence?
Yeah, I think it's always important to start with things that you already love. And I figure most people love spaghetti, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something we all are familiar with. And I think that's a perfect meal to get started with, to build a little, like you said, build a little confidence. Mm-hmm. Instead of using, beef or turkey inside of your spaghetti sauce, you can use Beyond Meat. I love their meat crumbles. Mm-hmm. Have you guys tried those yet?
We've tried Beyond Meat, but not the crumble.
Right.
Yes. So like the Beyond Meat crumbles, which is like a ground beef. I'm telling you, the first time I tried it with my own family, they didn't even know that it was because you just mix it in with the sauce, and you saute some onions, some more garlic, put that in there with some oregano, and you can put that into the sauce. And if you don't want to use Beyond Meat, you can use some cooked lentils or some sauteed mushrooms. Just put that into your sauce. And a lot of times with the box spaghetti in the store, most of that stuff is already naturally vegan. The ones that are made out of quinoa, they have ones that are made out of rice.
Right.
And, the flour ones. Most of the stuff in the grocery aisle is already vegan. Of course, you just have to check the labels, but just put your marinara sauce in there and you're ready to go. Really simple, garnish it with some basil. Real simple, really familiar dish. And I think just taking some of your favorites and figuring out ways to make those vegan and delicious for yourself is just like the perfect way to start.
Yeah.
So spaghetti. I always say spaghetti because that's something that everybody is familiar with.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's great because one, it's super simple. And a lot of times people, they look at these elaborate, recipes where just you need a recipe just to make one of the ingredients, and,
right, right.
And a lot of times people get discouraged. So to have something, really basic, just a classic dish that they could just, throw a few things together and they have something that's plant-based. I think that's great, and that's something that a lot of people can do today as they're listening
absolutely.
to it. Yeah,
absolutely, because I think it is very easy to be discouraged because, unfortunately, and I know this from my own experience, when you're first starting, you come across a lot of the ones that are people who are more chefs, and I know that you and I and Kim, we can make that now, but when we first started, maybe not. So I think it can be very discouraging when you first get started to come across a lot of the chefs who are making everything so beautiful and elaborate, and the food is amazing. But when you have a family and you're busy and you're working, the last thing you want to do is come home and spend 2 hours making one meal.
Right,
If anything, you want to spend 2 hours prepping for the week, not making your whole just one meal. So I think sometimes we come into this and we overthink it. And I get it because I used to overthink it a lot because we were just like, okay, how do I put a meal together? How do I do this? How do I do that? And we don't realize that we really can make it as simple as our lifestyle allows us to make it. Right. It doesn't have to be complicated. So I definitely get that. Yeah,
I remember when we first got started, we got this one cookbook. I don't remember the name of it, but every single recipe in there was just this elaborate, intense, meal where, like you said, it's like 2 hours just to make one meal. I don't think I made one thing out of that cookbook either. I think I just looked at the pictures. Yeah. Yeah. It had some beautiful pictures in it.
Yeah. And I think I had a cookbook like that too when I first.
Yeah, we didn't make anything in there. Because you had to you needed a recipe to make some of the spices, and you had to it was intense.
Yes, and even the broth had to be homemade. I'm just like, oh my God. And you know what's so funny? It's kind of like, and one of my friends is he is actually I'm friends with his wife, but they're transitioning. And he was saying, I told him, I said, well, you don't have to make, because I think we actually end up getting the same cookbook. Now, I don't know if we all talking about the same book, but he got the book, and he was just like so frustrated because he said it took him like 4 hours. And I said, well, what did you make? And we were going over the recipe, and I was like, well, you didn't have to make it like that. You could have, there's a little hacks in there. You could have purchased it already made, a couple of these ingredients. And he was like, but I was afraid I was going to do it wrong. So I think I get that. If you're not a cook, I get that, because I used to be the same way. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't use vegetable broth that's already made because this recipe would have called for it if it was okay, So I get that. I definitely get that.
So, what advice would you give to our listeners and just people out there that are really, just kind of starting out on this journey of being plant-based, eating more, vegetable-based dishes and getting into veganism? What type of advice would you give them on their journey?
Yeah, number one is just be gentle with yourself. I think we are so hard on ourselves, and we don't even give ourselves enough credit as far as counting some of the small victories. Mm-hmm. If you're switching out your milk, if you're drinking cow's milk or using cow's milk in cereal and cooking, and you switch that out to almond milk, and you switch it out to coconut milk or any of the other options out there, that's huge. That's an amazing start. I think that's a great way to get started, is to just start switching out your milk, start switching out your butter, adding a green smoothie, believe it or not. I feel like drinking green smoothies in the morning, like having, some spinach and some fruit and some water, I felt like I always used to set my day up to eat better throughout the day. Mm-hmm. Yes. Just starting your morning off of that. And then I always say this because I feel like I said it like 3 times already, but figuring out how to make your favorite meals vegan is really helpful.
Yeah.
Really, really helpful because it'll keep you going. You're like, okay, I can do this. At least for me, I felt like that. I was like, oh, I can keep doing this because I figured out how to make this macaroni and cheese good, you know, because I remember at one point I was like, if the macaroni and cheese isn't right, I don't know if I can do this. So when I was able to do that, I was like, okay. So just being open to, you know, changing, because it's a change, it's a good change, but either way it's a change, you know. So being open to the change, being gentle on yourself, starting your morning off with like a green smoothie or some type of juice, it really will set the rest of your day up. And incorporating some of your favorite meals and figuring out how to make those vegan. I think those are some great ways to get started.
I think that's great. It really builds that bridge so that people can transition properly and they don't feel so lost.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's great. Now, I know that you have a kind of like a starter kit, right?
Yeah. So it's a vegan starter kit basically for people who are really just trying to figure out where to get started as far as, you know, what a vegan is, meal planning, and some recipes, and some resources that I have. And I just put that together. It's only about 6 or 7 pages of some information, like introductory information, so that you can feel confident about, okay, this is what this looks like if I want to get started on a vegan journey. Yeah. And
6 or 7 pages. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, and that's at brownveganvip.com. Okay. So that you can sign up for that. Yeah.
So so they'll sign up and then you'll send that to them?
Yes, they'll automatically get it in their email, and it's a PDF with just information on, you know, how to get started and some recipes and resources.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, 6 or 7 pages is perfect because when you see that it's so short, you'll sit there and pretty much read it through and get the information you need, as opposed to, you know, kind of getting intimidated if it's 100 pages and not reading it. So no, that's perfect. I'm sure a lot of people will find that useful. And then for people that you know, just want to you know, stay connected and you know, just follow you, you know, what avenues can they take?
Yes, I'm Brown Vegan everywhere. So that's brownvegan.com, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I try to keep it all the same. So Brown Vegan is how you can connect with me anywhere online. Okay, perfect. And before you go, are there any you know, parting words you would like to share with our viewers? Yeah, our listeners. Right. Just realize you can do this, and if you have a family, you can do this with a family. So believe that and know that. And there's so much information out there. I mean, things have changed a lot since 2010 when I transitioned. So if you're worried about losing some of your favorite foods, I promise there's a replacement for everything these days. So have fun, be open to experimenting, and I promise that things will get so much easier for you. Nice. And before we go, for all the information that we discussed in this episode, Monique's contact information on her starter guide, just go to jkhealthtribe.com and type Monique in the search box, and you can gain access to all that information. And Monique, thank you for joining us. This was so fun. Thank you. And this is definitely going to help so many people that listen to it. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Have a good one. You too. Take care. So that is the conclusion of our interview with Monique of Brown Vegan. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode, but most importantly, you received value from it. And before we go, just a couple of things. One, we've teamed up with Audible Books, so you can download a free Audible book of your liking, and also try their service free for 30 days. Just go to jkhealthtribe.com/books. That's jkhealthtribe.com/books, and download your free Audible book today. And if you do not like the service, feel free to cancel it before 30 days, but you still get to keep that Audible book. And lastly, you know, we love doing these shows. We receive great support and great feedback, but we just ask that you continue to share this show so we can spread our message to help people and families live healthier. And make sure you shoot over to jkhealthtribe.com and join our email list so you can stay abreast of everything that Jamal and I have coming down the pike in the future. Okay? So until next time, live healthier.